Hi, this is Taichi. In this video, I'm going to introduce you how to play the game The Resistance. For me, I have played the game for around 2 years, and I know how this game works. I know how to win either as a resistance or as a spy. So let me walk you through it, and then you can have a basic understanding of how this game works and how to win, because I would tell you some very useful strategies to win this game. So, okay, at the very beginning of the game, you need to gather a bunch of folks who are willing to play with you. That is usually very difficult because it requires at least 5 players to start the game. Okay, and 5 is not a small number, right? Normally, you have 3 to 4 people, but for 5, that's sometimes very hard. So let's say you have successfully gathered 4 other folks to play with you, which makes it a total of 5. Then you want to pick a map for that. Okay, this is the map for 5 players. If you have 6 people in total, then you can pick the map for 6 players right here. Okay, so before introducing the specifics of the maps, I'm going to tell you something about the background of the game and the basic gameplay of it. So it says that in a utopian society, there is a corrupt government. Well, that's nothing surprising for us because there are corrupt governments all around the world. So there are a bunch of folks, right, who are trying to overthrow the government, and they call themselves the resistance. So in this case, the resistance are the good guys, right? So don't get confused because that's sometimes very confusing to new players, right? They heard they heard the name the resistance. Well, that sounds like some bad guys. No, they're the good guys because they want to overthrow a bad government, okay? And unfortunately, the government is not that stupid. Although they're bad, they're not stupid. They're not fools. They have their espionage. They have their spies, right, who are infiltrating this resistance group of people. So you have the resistance, who are good guys, and the spies, who are the bad guys sent by the government. Okay, that's what you're going to do at the very beginning of the game. You will get your own identity card. Well, let's see. Okay, you will get your card face down. Okay, no one will see your card at the beginning. Let's say someone I get this card, right? Let's say I get this card, and then I may take a look at it in a sneaky manner because I don't want anyone else to see it. Okay, and then it turns out to be red, which means I am a spy, right? If it turns out to be blue, then I am a resistance, and that is immutable to changes. Okay, that cannot be changed in the game. So if you get a red card, you are the spy. You're the bad guy. You're the government espionage team. If you get a blue card, you're the good guy. You're the resistance. Okay, that's it. And you don't want anyone else to see it. You keep it a secret. And then what's going to happen is that every player will close their eyes for 10 seconds. Well, that's for me. If you want to do 5 seconds, that's also okay. But when I play it, I usually will say, hey, everyone, close your eyes for 10 seconds. Then we will do a 10-second countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And, so after everyone closes his or her eyes, then the spies will open their eyes. That is very important because you don't want to miss that if you're a spy. If you're a spy, you want to know who the other spies are. Okay, and this is the only chance for you to know that normally. And you want to know who your teammates are, right? Because you are the minority here, right? Because let's say in a 5-player game, you have 2 spies, right? In a 6-player game, you have 2 spies. If you have 7 players in total, you have 3 spies. So spies are always the minority here, right? So you want to stick with each other. You want to know who each other are, right? So let's say in a 5-player game, you have 2 spies, right? In a 6-player game, you have 2 spies. If you have 7 players in total, you have 3 spies. So spies are always the minority here, right? So you want to stick with each other. You want to know who each other are, right? So let's say I get the red card. I know I am a spy. Then during the 10-second session, I will open my eyes. And so will the other spies. So we will know who the other spies are. Okay. After that, after the 10-second session, everyone will open their eyes. Okay. So you will have some tokens. You will have the tokens for approve and reject. I will explain how that works in the future. But most importantly, there will be a team leader. There will be a team leader for each mission. Okay, so let's take a look at the map right now. Okay, let's say we have 6 people in total. 6 people in total. Okay, then for the first mission, there is a circle that says 2, which means there will be 2 people in total. 2 people in total who are going to participate in that mission. Okay, what that means is if you're a captain, you want to pick 2 people in total for that mission. Normally, as a captain, you want to pick yourself. Why is that? Because if you're a resistance, you don't know who the other resistances are. That makes it really difficult for you to pick because you don't want to include any spies in your team, right? Okay, let me explain why. Because for a spy could kill a mission. You don't want that to happen. The way to win this game is to have 3 successes or 3 fails. I forgot to mention that. I'm so sorry for that. So if you're resistance, okay, you want 3 success missions. If you're a spy, you want 3 failed missions. If there are 3 success missions, then you win as a resistance. If you have 3 failed missions, then you win as a spy. Okay. And it's really easy for a spy to kill a mission, to make it fail, right? Why is that? Because for each member in a team, they will have 2 cards, a fail card and a success card. And if the spies vote fail, then the mission will fail. That is very important. Let's say this. So take a look. This is the second mission, right? There are 3 people there. If one of them votes fail, then the mission fails. Okay, even if the other 2 vote success, even if the other 2 members on the team, on the mission, vote success, it's still going to fail because there is one failing it. Okay, that's always the case, except for this. Look, so take a look. This is what will happen if you have a lot of players. This is the map for 9-player game. So if you have 9 players, then for the 4th mission, you need to have 2 fails to fail the mission. Okay, that is difficult for the spies, but normally it's very easy for the spies to fail a mission. Why is that? Because, let me use this as an example, right? Because, take a look. For the mission 3, there are 4 people in total, right? There are 4 people. If there are 3 resistance in that team and 1 spy in that team, and the spy votes fail, then the mission is going to fail, right? Does that sound crazy to you? I think it's crazy, right? Even if they're in the minority there, they will have that much power. So be aware of that. For the game, so the team leader will pick the team members, right? So let's say if I am the captain, I'm going to pick a number of players in my team. Okay, let's use this as an example here. Okay, so for the first mission, I will pick two people in total. Normally, I will pick myself. And then let's say I pick this guy, right? I pick this guy in my team. Then what will happen is that everyone will vote for it. Everyone will vote for it. Means that every player in this game will vote for my decision of the team, for my nomination of the team members. So if you like the team, right? If you like the team, let's say you are a resistance, okay? Let's say you're a resistance. And because you're not picking the team, you want to throw a temper, right? You want to express your disappointment. You may want to vote reject, okay? But that is usually not reasonable. I will explain why later. If you like my team, if you think I picked the right team that has no spies, then you vote approve, right? If you're a spy, you may not like my team if I pick two resistance because you know that it's going to success, which is a bad thing for you as a spy, right? Then you may want to reject. Okay, then you may want to reject. And this is very important because we will have the record of that. We'll have the record of the voting history, which means that each and every of your vote will be put under scrutiny for future references. And that is accountability. Think of that, right? Think of that. So normally we will have a deliberate discussion about the nomination. Sometimes it can be very long. And when I play it, it can last for 15 or 20 seconds, sometimes half an hour just for a mission because folks are very argumentative, right? They want to be on the team, right? If you're resistance, you're not on the team. And in a lot of situations, that means the mission is probably going to fail. Okay, why is that? Let me explain that. So, well, let me explain that later. So first of all, for the team nomination, so let's say we have 6 people, right? We have 6 people. Then a team will only pass if we get more than 4 approves, 4 or more approves. So we need to get at least 4 approvals for the team, right? For the team. So if there are 5 people who reject that, then there I will pass the team leader token to another player that's next to me in the sequence. Okay, then that person will become the next leader, and then he or she will pick his or her team, and then go on. Okay. So until everyone agrees, right? Until we have the minimum number to pass a mission. However, you have to remember that we also have a token for these things, for the vote track. What does that mean? Why is this red? This is very ominous, right? I want to make that clear, ominous. Because you don't want to get there. Let's say you don't like my team, okay? Then the bottle guy becomes the next leader. And then you don't like the bottle guy's team, then the cup guy then goes on, and then for every rejected mission, it will pass. And then when it reaches 5, the good guys will automatically lose the game. That is a tragedy. You don't want that to happen. That is really a tragedy. Look, so if you're a good guy, if you're resistance, you don't want that to happen. That is very dangerous. So normally, there is not much room for negotiation for the first mission because at that time, a resistance will know nothing, literally nothing about anything, right? So you have to just move forward, right? You don't want to waste everyone's time and spend your time in the endless accusations. You don't want that to happen. So, okay, let's say we're all rational folks and we pass my mission, which is me and the bottle guy, right? And then we two goes on for the first mission right here, okay? And then each of us, the bottle guy and me, gets a set of cards, including a success and fail, face down, okay? And we will choose one of them, okay? Let's say I am a resistance. I must choose success. If I am a resistance, I must choose success. That's how the game works. That's part of the rule. That's you can't choose fail if you're a resistance. You can't do that. That's against the rule of the game. Okay. But if you're a spy, you will have the leeway of deciding whether to choose a fail or a success. Okay. Why is that? Because sometimes you want to pretend to be a nice guy. You want to pretend to be a good guy, right? You don't want to raise all the suspicion about you, especially for the first mission when there are only two players. And if you vote fail, well, then of course the mission will fail, which is good for you as a spy. Okay. If it does fail like this, it is good for you as a spy because you only need two more fails to win this game. But what's bad about that is everyone from now on will know that there is at least one spy in that team, which means that you are highly likely to be a spy. And you will raise all the suspicion from other players, which is not something that's desirable, right? So normally, if you're a spy and you're going for the first mission, you may want to vote success, right? So that people will trust you. But of course, the resistance folks are not fools, right? They will know that it doesn't mean anything if you vote success for the first mission. So you really have to reach an equilibrium between those two impulses, right? If you want to play it aggressively, if you want to be, save some times for other plays, then you may want to fail the first mission. But if you want to play it in a prudent manner, like I always do, then you will probably want to vote success for the first mission, even if you're a spy, right? So that goes on. So let's say the bottle guy is indeed a sneaky spy, and then he votes success for the first mission. That's what normally happens. Okay, out of like 90% of the game that I play, the spies will vote success for the first mission, or maybe 95%. Okay. Then we go on. And that means the resistance will get an easy win for the first mission. Okay, the first mission is always an easy win for the resistance. Then what that means is that, but for the second mission, that's always an easy win for the spies because the second mission tend to fail. Why is that? Let me explain. So let's say this. In the second mission, we have the bottle guy, me, and the cop guy, okay? And let's say the cop guy is a resistance. Okay, let's say the cop guy is a resistance, and we passed the team, right? So because the team leader token will be passed on to the next player, let's say to the bottle guy, right? Then the bottle guy becomes the next leader. Then he will pick his team members, right? Let's say he picked himself, me, and the cop guy, which is very reasonable. That is very reasonable. And that is something that my friends and I will call as Armand's law, which is designed by a legendary player called Armand. And that law enunciates that we should always pick people in the sequence, right? For example, you pick A, B, C for the first mission, then you probably want to pick A, B, C, D in the second mission instead of J, K, L, and N, because that's totally random. And if something is random, you don't get useful information from that, right? So you want to keep track on everything. But that is not mandatory. Remember that. That is not mandatory. And sometimes it can be a little bit confusing for the new players. So I will not elaborate that in this video, but I think that is really useful for the resistance. Okay. So let's say this, the bottle guy, let's continue, right? The bottle guy picked himself, me, and the cup guy. Then everyone will vote on that. Maybe the team will get rejected. Maybe it will get approved. But let's say it gets approved, right? What will happen next is that each of us will get a set of cards, success and fail, and then we'll vote for that. Then, because the bottle guy is a sneaky spy, then he will probably want to vote fail for the second mission. Okay, he'll probably want to vote fail for the second mission. And that means even if the bottle guy, the cup guy, and I vote for success for the second mission, it is still going to fail because the bottle guy votes fail. And remember, once you vote, wait a second. Once you vote, you will have these cards face down, okay, like this, and get shuffled, And then we will take a look at it, and then what we will see is that one success, two successes, one fail. Oops, that's too bad, because then we will have a failed second mission. Okay? We'll have a failed second mission. And then it will look like this. Okay, then it will look like this. Okay, and what that means is that if you're a resistance, you want to win 2 more missions. If you're a spy, you want to fail 2 more missions. That's how it works. So in this case, every player right now will know a lot of things about the 3 of us. Everyone will know that there is at least one spy within the 3 of us. Because if there's, because if there are no spies, then why would there be a fail, right? Because only spies will vote fail. And if there's a fail, you will know that there has to be at least one spy in it, right? And everyone will know that. Everyone will know that. So take a look, right? Take a look. So how will you defend yourself if you're a bottle guy? Because people will think that you're a spy, right? Then you may want to say, hey, look, I was in the first mission. I didn't fail it. The cup guy did, right? He's the new guy. He failed the mission. I am innocent. You will say that. You'll say that. But the cup guy doesn't buy it, right? Because he knows he voted success. And so he was like, oh, look, I didn't vote fail. One of you two did, right? Why are you accusing me for voting fail because I didn't, right? And that is very argumentative, but normally that is unavailing because it's not going anywhere, right? So that is the basic gameplay of it. So remember, sorry. So if that's how it works, then that could be sometimes, really, let's see, um, let's see, um, yeah, palate, yeah, palate. That's insipid or insipid. That's the word I'm looking for, right? So in order to make the game more interesting, we also have the ability cards that gives you special abilities to gather more information or to manipulate the progress of the game. And I will explain the most commonly used three cards. One of them is the strong leader, right? Which means that you can become the leader and play before plot or team cards have been distributed. Okay, so let's say this: I'm the captain of the first mission, right? And then I give the card to the cup guy. And maybe sometime in the future, the cup guy feels that, I want to become the leader, even if I am not the leader, in the sequence. Then he may want to vote. He may want to use this card and to immediately become a leader. Okay, that's how it works. It's not something that's that interesting. Another commonly used card is called no confidence, that you can null an approved vote and force leadership change, which means that, let's say, the bottle guy nominates himself, me, and the cup guy, but someone else who doesn't like the team may want to use no confidence, and then it will pass the team leader token to the next player, and then that player will become the next leader. Okay, and then we also have keep a close eye on you. This is one of the most powerful cards in this game. This is a very powerful card. Okay, you may look at one played mission card. What that means is after the voting of success and fail, you can take a look at one of the card that is supposed to be face down and shuffle, you know. So that is supposed to be um, uh, what's the word? Clandestine. Yeah, that is supposed to be clandestine. So that is a huge amount of power, and that can manipulate the situation. So what that means is, if you're the cop guy, you don't believe the bottle guy. You don't believe him. And you think that he is very likely to vote fail for the mission. Then before that, remember, you have to use the card before the voting process, which means that before he votes, you need to declare your using of the card. Okay? Then you will say, hey, bottle guy, I don't trust you. I want to use it on you, Then he will have to really make a tough decision. He may really want to make, he really have to make a tough decision if he is a spy, right? Because if he's a resistance, that doesn't matter. If he's a resistance, he may say, hey, you don't need to waste that card on me because definitely going to vote success. That's how he will say. But if he's a spy, he may get worried, because if he really is going to vote fail, then he evidently doesn't want any other players to know it, right? Because he wants to do it in a clandestine manner. And then you want to use the card, you're trying to intimidate him. That is useful. Maybe he will change his mind. Maybe because you said that you're going to use it on him, then he may change his mind and vote success instead. But maybe he wants to gamble, right? Maybe he wants to just play it aggressively. Maybe he think people will trust him instead of the cop guy. Then he will take a chance and still vote fail, even if the cop guy will see the fail card. And remember, this is very important. This is very important, because even if the cop guy takes a look at the played mission card of the bottle guy, only the cop guy will know what he voted. Okay? No one else will see the card. And then what they can do is really listening, right? Let's say the cop guy testifies that the bottle guy voted fail. Then, as a player who does not see the card, you really have to make a tough decision between trusting the cup guy or a bottle guy or the bottle guy, right? And you will know is that there is at least one spy between them. Because if the two are both resistance, they have no reason to undermine each other, right? To sabotage each other. That doesn't make any sense at all. There has to be at least one spy among them. And that means you really want to take a chance. You would either want to believe the cop guy, because he says that the bottle guy votes fail, then maybe the bottle guy is a spy, right? Maybe he's telling the truth. But what if he's lying? What if he is using this as a way to undermine the bottle guy? That could happen from time to time, right? And then the bottle guy will probably use that as a justification of what happened. He will say, hey, you're lying. The cop guy is lying. I voted success. He is the one who voted fail. And now he's trying to, you know, undermine me, right? So, because as someone who doesn't see the card directly, you will really have to make a tough decision. Okay, that's how it works. And also, okay, one important thing that I forgot to mention is the picking of a team as a spy. Okay, let's say you are the team leader for the second mission. Okay, because there are 3 people in the team. If you're a spy, you probably want to choose 2 other resistances. You may not want to include any other spies. That is sometimes difficult, because if you do it in a straightforward manner, then that may raise people's doubts, right? Let's say because you're picking someone random, right? Because we have A, B, C, D, E in the sequence, then you suddenly pick A, B, and E instead of A, B, and C. That raises suspicion, and people will ask you, "Hey, why are you choosing E? Why would you do that instead of A, B, C? Why would you choose A, B, and E?" Right? That is something dubious. Maybe you're a spy, right? So, but the notion of picking 2 other resistances is that you don't want to include any other spies in your team, because you yourself is already enough to fail a mission, right? If, let's say, the bottle guy, right? The bottle guy knows, because the spy will know everyone at the very beginning, right? Because they know who the other spies are. That means they will also know who the resistances are. So if you're a spy like the bottle guy, you will know that me, Taichi, is a resistance. And you will know that a cop guy is also a resistance, and you are a spy. And then you may want to pick three of us, right? But what if at the beginning the bottle guy knows that I am also a spy, right? If we two are the spies, then he may not want to pick me for the second mission. Why? Because what if both of us vote fail for the second mission? That would be a tragedy. That would be a really be a tragedy, because everyone from now on knows that there are two spies, or at least sorry. So because there are only two spies for the 6-player game, if that happens, if after the voting of the three of us, and there turns out to be two spies, then everyone will know immediately that the two spies are included in the three of us. And that gives huge information to the resistance. They will know that the other spies, the other three players who weren't on the mission are all resistance. And that is huge information, right? Because there has to be two spies amongst three, right? And then that means the other three players are resistance. Then that is a huge win for the resistance. And as a spy, you will not want that to happen. You will not want that to happen. Trust me, right? That is basically the doomsday if you let that happen. So the difficulty here is that you really want to convince everyone of your decision, right? You don't want to say, "Hey, I just, I just think that the person is resistant, and I pick him." No, you don't want to do that. You may want to use more compelling reasons to back your decision, right? So that is how it works. Okay. And then also remember, when you have situations like this rarely happens, but it did happen because I play a lot of games, right? It did happen. Like, there are two fails at the very beginning. That is very ominous for the spies, right? They would. Oh, sorry. That is very ominous for the resistance, right? Because if the spies manage to fail another mission, then the resistance will fail and call it a game. That is a tragedy. You don't want that to happen, right? And um, what I want to mention is that if there are two successes at the beginning, then as a spy, that is a tragedy for you, right? Because you have to stop the resistance from winning another game, no matter the cost, right? And that means that you just can't just play the game in a cavalier manner. You really have to try your very best to fail another mission, no matter what, right? No matter what. Um, and because if you don't do that, you lose the game. Okay, so these are two extremities which rarely happens, but did happen from time to time. So I want to tell you that um, you really have to be cautious if you're put in that situation. And a more commonly observed situation would be like this. Let's see. Okay, there are two success missions, one failed mission. That is still very dangerous for the spies because they have to manage to fail these two missions in order to win. They must fail these two missions. Okay, that is a sometimes very difficult, right? What if it's the opposite? What if it looks like this? There are already 2 failed missions, then as a resistance, you must make sure that these 2 missions are successes. Because if not, you will fail. You will lose the game, right? You'll lose the game. So, okay, that is basically everything about this game. And I think um, okay. Also, for the voting record, let me try to underscore that at the end of this video. Voting record is very important because, as I said, it will be put under scrutiny in the future for future references. So you have to really think hard about your decision, and you want to get your voice out and let people understand your rationale of either reject or approve a team. You want people to know that you're being rational here. You are sensible. You're not just reject for unknown purposes, because unknown purposes are usually clandestine, right, and sneaky. So you want, if you don't like the team, you want to tell others in a convincing manner why you don't like it, and then you may want to reject. If you like the team, you may want to tell others why you like it in a convincing way, especially, and this is very important. This is crucial for the spies. And I tell you this, it is crucial to tell others why you would approve a team if you are not in it. That is something really difficult for new players to manage. Why would that happen? Let me explain. Let's say this. Okay. We have 4 players. Let's say, um, well, I mean, because you have to have at least 5 players, right? So let's say this. So there are me, there are the bottle guy, the cop guy, and also the lotion girl, okay? And then let's say we're in a team. Let's say we pick um, the cop guy, the lotion girl, and me, right? Let's say this is the team. As the bottle guy, he may want to approve it because he knows that there is a spy among the 3 of us. He knows that there is a spy among 3 of us, and then as a spy, he may want to approve it, right? Because he knows that it's going to fail, which is good for him. But if he votes approve, then everyone will think, hey, why would you prove that if you're not on the team? Because normally speaking, if you're in resistance and you're not on the team, you may want to reject it, right? You may want to reject it because you feel insecure. You feel something unpredictable is going to happen because you know that as a resistance you will vote success, but you don't know the other people, right? If there's a spy in it, you probably don't want the team to transpire, and then um, you may want to reasonably reject it, right? So um, if you're the bottle guy, right, you're a spy, then maybe you will reject it, even if you know that it's good for your team. That is really sneaky. That is really what defines you as a professional player. That is really professional. Okay, that is really a good way to do that. You may want to say, hey, I'm not on the team. Why would I prove it? I don't like the team because I'm not in it. And because I know that as a resistance, I want to be on the team and you don't pick me, then sorry, I'm going to reject it. Even if he knows that it's going to fail. And that's good for him, he's still going to reject it. That's a good way to do it. But let's say he is kind of a new player, okay? then he votes approve, then people will say, hey, bottle guy, let's say, because after the voting of the team, after the ending of the mission, and it turned out that the mission failed, right? Then people say, hey, bottle guy, why would you approve it? Why would you approve it if you are a resistance and you're not in the team? Then you really try very hard to defend your decision of approving the team. Okay, that is something that's really hard to do, because why would you prove it in the first place, right? You may want to find some some compelling reasons for that, and that does happen from time to time, especially in a game consists of only professional players. Well, um, then they may have some really compelling reasons for that. But of course, the professional players may not want to approve it in the first place. That's another story. But anyway, so because before that, if you do want to vote success, if you do want to vote approve, then you really want to enunciate your rationale before everything transpires. So that's the basic idea of it. I hope I have explained everything in this game, for this game, how to win it, how to success, how to fail, how to attain your own victory, and how to enjoy it. And let me tell you this, the most difficult thing about this game is not how to win, is how to gather enough folks who are willing to play with you. Okay, so thanks for all my friends who played with me. You are really, really great, awesome people. And thank you for that. I made this video to express my gratitude. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you for playing with me. And I'm really grateful for that. So that's it. Let's call it a video, and then, okay. Hopefully this will be useful for you. Thanks.